Count me down to 6.
And then they have all the
Is that what you're
astronauts.
doing, 6?
The look like Mount Rushmore, you know. That's not what this movie is. Funny. It's exciting. You
Wrong
know?
campaign for the film.
Absolutely
Okay.
the wrong campaign.
Well, Scott, the last time we talked, or I should preface that, or correct that to say the only other time we talked was during the Right Stuff.
Yeah.
And we had a very brief meeting at that time. And of course, the film, I think, generally speaking, was an artistic success, but didn't quite do the box office they had hoped, did it?
No.
Do you have any thoughts on why?
I think that it became from the offset a hard news item. Will this film be instrumental in the candidacy of John Glenn? And it was perceived by the public as being kind of serious, semi-docudrama. And what was never made apparent to, say, a 16-year-old kid off the streets of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, was that the film was side-splittingly funny. It was the best special effects flying sequences ever in a movie. It was exciting, you know, and none of that was, it was just, I think it was the wrong ad campaign. It was the, it was a PG film. It was ready for release at Christmas time. They never released it, or for whatever reason, it wasn't released during Christmas. So the only film that anyone could take their family to see that had that kind of a rating and decent reviews during Christmas was a movie about a girl dying of cancer. It just was. I don't know. If I was running the ad campaign for that film too, the same thing might have happened to me. I mean, when two major national magazines want to put your film on the cover, who cares whether it's a hard news item or not? But I think ultimately it turned off an awful lot of people. They didn't understand what the film was, or really what a terrific entertainment piece it was.
Of course, now you have Silverado, which I think, are you superstitious if I say I think it's going to be a hit?
No, it's a lot better than you saying you think it's going to be a flop.
When you consider the alternative.
Yeah, I know, I hope it is.
Had you ever done anything at all that put you in the Western milieu, as it was?
I did a small part in a film called Catalanian Little Britches, which was a kind of Western. And then the guy I played in Urban Cowboy was, in a way, a Western character, but nothing like this, not really, no.
Because in this one you have to ride, you have to get very proficient with
guns.
guns.
It's 1884, and you know, and the character I played, you know, is fast with a gun and slow with the ladies. It's one of those characters. I had to learn how to fire and draw and fire a .45 single action Colt fast, and ride a horse fairly well.
And so what did you go through to achieve that?
Just doing it a lot. You know, I drew and fired a gun 1,000 times a day for over 3 months. Flipped and caught and fired a Winchester 73 hundreds and hundreds of times. And at one point I know that I'd ridden a horse consecutively for 2 to 6 hours a day, every day for 47 days in a row. So, you know, it's just repetition, just doing it again and again.
Was there ever a time when you said to yourself, what am I doing in this movie?
Never. I always knew what I was doing, and I was having a good time.
And happy to be there.
Yep.
Yeah. You have a scene where that I think is just a delicious scene, where you're sent down, or you go down sort of as the decoy into the bad guys' camp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what are you going to remember 5 years from now about doing that scene?
What I'm going to remember 5 years from now about doing that scene is a section of the scene that was never in the film, and that was coming around the corner on my horse. In one take, the horse next to me, the guy who was tied over it, his boots inadvertently, with spurs on them, kicked my horse under his belly. We were going at a dead run, and we were on ice and snow. My horse went straight up in the air. Rear legs went out from under him, and he fell backwards. And I bailed out real quickly because I didn't feature the idea of having 1,500 pounds of saddle horn on my sternum, and got a hairline fracture on my wrist. So 5 years from now, when the weather gets cold and wet, that's what I'll be thinking about, as it becomes a little painful to do that.
Did you have to go to a cast?
Yeah, they made me a cast, but they made me one that I could take off and on, so I'd take it off and do a scene and then slap it back on again.
Yeah. Scott, I was reading in your bio about this illness you had when you were a child that kind of forced you, and the bio says that you were bedfast in a dark room for a year. Is that right?
It wasn't that long, but yeah, I had scarlet fever seriously, and I was supposed to have died from it. And that's true, yeah. I came on, and it definitely turned me into an athlete. When I got out of bed, my bones were so soft that the bones of my one leg bent, and I limped like Ratso Rizzo in Midnight Cowboy for 5 years. And before I did that, before I got scarlet fever, I really wasn't an athlete at all, and just out of embarrassment as much as anything, I decided I'm never going to look like this, and I'm never going to be like this again as long as I live. And that was when I was 9 years old, so I've been real physically active person ever since then. And I'm addicted to exercise now the way people get addicted to things like cigarettes, I guess.
Run, or what do you do?
I run the mountains. So there's a mountain behind the house that I live in Idaho, and I try to run up it at least once a week in the summer, and that's 5 miles, and it climbs 3,300 vertical feet. Last week I ran twice in one day, which was kind of foolhardy. I couldn't walk for about 3 days after that. And then I do a lot of flat running and bicycling, and up until about 3 years ago, I was a rock climber. I don't really do too much of that anymore. Ride horses and work out in many different ways at home. Where I live is an outdoor physical person's paradise because there's so much to do there.
Yeah.
You can windsurf and climb and ski and run and bicycle, and it's endless.
Well, it all works. For you, it does. Scott, our time is up, but it's been nice talking with you.
Nice talking to you, too.
Congratulations on a wonderful performance in Silverado.
Thank you.
And I do hope it's a big hit.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice interview. Thank you.
Pause tape.
Speed.
Scott, do you have any thoughts about why The Right Stuff never did reach the box office potential it had?
I'm sorry. Can we cut this for a minute? We gotta get this table up.
Speed.
Scott, do you have any thoughts about why The Right Stuff did not ever reach its box office potential? What did you do to get familiar with the guns and all that you had to work with? What did you do to train as far as the horseback riding is concerned? You have a scene where you come into the bad guy's camp as a decoy. Now, 5 years from now, what are you going to remember about that scene? Is it true that as a child you were bedfast for a year because of a severe illness? What do you do? Run? Okay, just reactions now. Okay.
Stop it.